Bom dia. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you all together at the Planetiers World Gathering. My name is Thorsten. I thought about giving you today an update, and when I say giving you, actually co-creating with you an update about an industry most of you, and I look in the back, I think there's a lot of young people in the sporting goods, sports fashion industry, so I think most of the people can relate to sports, to companies like Nike, Adidas, etc. So I thought about structuring this a little bit the next 20 minutes, and then we have a fantastic panel discussion with two great guests. That first of all, I would give you a bit of an update who I am, what's the overall context, maybe there's things we've seen already yesterday from other presenters, and then look into the market, and I will explain that when we get there, and then check out with some reflection and some recommendation. But the first thing I maybe would like to do is to invite you all to take part in a little thought experiment, because sustainability, per definition, has a lot to do with justice. And I maybe would also encourage the young students here in the back maybe to come a little bit more to the front, because I need you. I need you here participating. This is not a lecture. This is actually a co-creative and interactive session. So please come a little bit down. And while you walk down, I give you a little exercise. So I'm really curious how much you go down, but 1 or 2 rows is already a good start. Okay, stay where you are. I will make it happen no matter where you sit, but sit down and let's have a little thought experiment together. So I want you all to think about is the following situation. Imagine you are thrown in a situation with another person. You don't know the other person is not going to get to know you, so it's completely anonymous what we're doing here. And think that there is a game between the two people, and the conditions are there's $100, 100 euros is on the table, and they should be split between the two people. And the person A has the opportunity to define the conditions, how the amount of money will be divided between the two. And the person B has the opportunity to agree to the condition suggested by person A or not. So long story short, if the person B agrees to the condition, the deal will happen. If the person B does not agree, the deal does not happen. Nobody wins anything. Later we can discuss what that has to do with sustainability. So I throw you into the question of your person number B or person B, and imagine the condition A is offering that the 1,000 euro will be equally divided. So here, who in the room would not accept the deal if I would offer you, for example, 1,000, I take 500, you take 500. Is there anyone in the room who would not accept the deal, a 50-50 deal? And it's 500 euro for free. You can run away, you can do whatever you want. Everybody would accept it? Okay, good, not unexpected. But now let's imagine the second offer is, I want to keep 900 and give you 100. Is there anyone in the room who would not accept it, who would say, I think that's a little bit unfair, 900 for you, only 100 for me? Or you're all, most of you professional students, maybe you all think, come on, 100 euros, I can have a nice dinner tonight, and I take it, come on, I'm never going to see that person again. Everybody accepts? Okay, now the final question. And now I hope I'm going to find someone raising their hand. If I keep as I suggest to keep 9.95, and I would only give you 5. Who would accept this? Who would accept this offer? Some would accept it. Who would not accept the offer? Some would not accept the offer. Let's later talk about in the panel why you would not accept the offer. What makes you stop the offer? Okay, just a thought experiment, a little bit about myself, short introduction. I come from Germany. I've always been passionate about sports, and I've been passionate about learning new things, getting to know the world, traveling out. Today I'm married. We have 3 kids. The discussion about sustainability, what future do we leave behind, is obviously not only a question in our house, but it's a bigger societal question. And I can say I'm fortunate today that at least professionally I've managed to bring some of my passions into my profession. I worked for the last 20 years in the sporting goods industry. Today I work for Adidas. But today I'm here more representing one of my side jobs, which is working in teaching, education, and academics. And I'm representing on behalf of the Campus M University, which is a private university based in Munich, Germany. So what I would like to do with you now is, if you don't remember anything I said, maybe you want to remember one number, which is 1970. And it's not because I'm born in 1970. It's because we want to talk about ethics, and ethics is about good and bad, right and wrong. And 1970 is, I'm making this little claim, the last good year. Why is 1970 the last good year? Not because I was born, of course. 1970 is the last good year because there's something very important in the sustainability conversation, which is the Earth Overshoot Day, which is an indicator showing us basically how much resources we consume as a global society and how much the Earth can naturally regenerate. And 1970 was the last year we didn't go into the deficit. If you look at the statistics, we as a global population have a really, really bad run with regards how we household with our resources in the world. And obviously this is unsustainable today that we're using more than 1.7 Earth. Just to make it a little bit more transparent and easy to understand, this is as if you would have a credit card and you would have a credit of, let's say, an amount of money, and by July, August, you already spent your full annual budget, and later you put the debts to your kids and let the kids pay the interest rate and pay the debts back. So that's the situation we're in. And there has been a couple of rescue events and gatherings like we're doing here today. There has been a big gathering in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. Save the world was the claim. And the most recent one, obviously, the Paris Agreement. And I think with the Paris Agreement, a couple of really fantastic things came together. I think the consciousness, what climate warming represents, how this is related to CO2, but also the consciousness that the sustainability agenda must be driven together with the private sector. So we need business, we need brands to drive a sustainability transformation or to contribute to a sustainability transformation. And before I now go talking about some examples of brands, this is the most wordy slide, but I want you to pay attention to the next couple of slides because it's very important to have a common language when we talk about sustainability and business and what we want to call sustainability and sustainable, and what sometimes is called sustainability and sustainable, but maybe is not really sustainable. So it's sometimes really, really difficult to understand the difference. So, typology 0.0 sustainability, a business which basically cares about business in the sense profitability, market share gain, net sales, and all those things. So very, very typical economic factors. No concerns to the greater good, no concerns to the environment. So we could say it's not sustainable. Where it gets a little bit complicated is those companies who operate very much like those 0.0 companies, but they sometimes call things sustainable because they realize people want to hear about sustainability, so they talk about sustainability. And they maybe sometimes put a banner on it and say this is sustainable, but it's eventually greenwashing. So there's a lot of companies, there's a lot of brands, there's a lot of examples we can discuss where this comes to play. So sustainability as usual, and you see already the word sustainability as usual, seems to be a very, very common practice. In particular for companies who are not used to work sustainably in a traditional historic sense. But where we want to actually go and where we need to go is businesses who look at a famous triple bottom line, people, planet, profit, and people who start building services, product, processes to contribute to a better world, set this as target, and also measure those achievements in a transparent way. And then last but not least, and I think I found at least one company, I believe, who's in this level, but this is the North Star where we all want to go, the true sustainability businesses. So companies, brands who basically put their whole intelligence, their creativity, their energy, their innovation in solutions which contribute to people, planet, and obviously to business, and contribute to the overall society and ultimately to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So those 4 typologies are very important to keep in mind, and now I get into what actually some academics have developed out of this concept, trying to understand how an industry, like in this case, the sporting good industry, can move towards the highest level of sustainability. And the model assumes that in a market, in a free market environment, you typically have someone, here we call them the greening Goliaths, so incumbent companies being in the marketplace, and suddenly comes a new offer, a new trend, and somebody's going to pick up on that trend. In this case, we call them the greening Davids, so small players, and in competition, they basically would ladder up to the right-hand corner, so would make the whole market more sustainable. Theory. In my master thesis a couple of years ago, I took this model and translated it in the sporting goods industry. And if you look at the slide, maybe you would naturally feel, yes, I see Patagonia maybe as the greatest example, but there's also lots of local brands. I know a couple of brands also from Portugal. They really, really push this sustainability as their key message and also brand message. And they seem to be very, very serious about it. And I can also see how brands, big ones, Reebok, Puma, Nike, Adidas, also starting to embrace this sustainability transformation. So the big question is this transformation really happening? And the second big question is this transformation happening fast enough? And I would like to deep dive with you only in the period between 2016 and today. And I would like to show you a couple of learnings from the market I have observed. And later in the panel, we can discuss about that. So as a brand marketing person, I would always start thinking about first, very old marketing class lecture number 1, consumer is king. Who is my user? Who is my community? Who am I targeting? And we have seen a lot of research telling us that consumers would vote with the wallet. So they would basically select brands, products, and services which are more sustainable. But we've also learned to question, okay, there might be a couple of people out there, but how much is it really the entire population today? Because we can also see, especially with the younger consumers, brands like Shein, who have no link to sustainability, no claim of sustainability, have tremendous success with, I look at you, the young population. And obviously it questions how much of the population is really, really interested in sustainability. And then we learned something which is called the attitude action gap. And this is basically the recognition that a lot of people, including myself, when you ask me, do you like to be sustainable? Yes. Do you act sustainable? Yes. But then in real action, oftentimes I don't. So there is a gap between what we want to do, what we say we do, and what we ultimately do, including myself, as I said. So the question is not that simple, what I asked you in the beginning. Are you ready to vote for justice with your wallet? And that makes it difficult for a brand organization, which typically sees that always as a starting point. What is the ultimate desire or the demand I can create with my target audience? So let's move and switch to the other side. Let's take a deep dive. What do companies do? Either because they follow a trend or because they're intrinsically motivated, because they have a purpose to be sustainable. And I think there is amazing example of brands being many, many years, long time before the Paris Agreement, getting really serious about changing the business model. This, for example, is a French brand, I'm sure. Who knows Veja here? Who knows this brand? Okay, majority knows it. I think very, very great brand early on, changed the business model. Instead of going to Asia, where you have the cheapest labor and cheapest production, they moved their production to Brazil, created different raw materials. A very, very outstanding example. Very early, very ahead of the time. Then maybe worldwide, the most famous one is Patagonia. Who could imagine you make an advertising for your brand telling people not to buy your product? But it created a lot of trust because people felt, hey, they don't seem to be just in it to make a quick deal. They seem to be more interested in a relationship with me rather than in the first place trying to sell a product. And I think that gave them a lot of brand credits. Adidas also has been very much ahead of the game, turning fisher nets into running products, later turning ocean plastic into high-performance football products. And by 2016, I think we got really a strong momentum. Many, many brands started to innovate, got creative. How can we do more and more creative solution? How can we link it to the Sustainable Development Goals? And just to share some, Nike obviously then tapping into a conversation related to climate and CO2. There is an entire brand out there, Allbirds. Who knows Allbirds? Okay, it's mainly in the US, it's not so big in Europe. So they are very focused on low CO2 products, and they have created a partnership with Adidas. So again, if you think of SDG number 17, partnerships, two brands which are competing with each other, basically partnering to build the most CO2-friendly shoe in the industry. So again, very much changing the traditional business model. And then Adidas also tapped into the topic of ending plastic waste, showing recognition that there is far too much plastic, and changed from virgin polyester totally to recycled polyester. And fantastic also the colleagues over the street in Germany, Puma, they developed a fully biodegradable shoe. So again, very, very innovative when it comes to material innovation. And Allbirds, even a CO2 neutral shoe. So lots of innovation coming, and even more interesting for me personally is when we think about innovation beyond materials and processes, when we think about entirely new business models. And here are for me the most remarkable example is a Swiss brand called On. Who knows On? I think I saw a couple of Ons already. Yeah, okay, good. They basically changed the model in you don't buy a shoe, you rent a shoe. So it's like a subscription model like Netflix. So amazing examples, long story short, from many, many, many brands. And what I would like to reflect upon is how much opportunities have with these opportunities. For example, second-hand resale market, brands who are offering services like repair. And as I said, for me, the most outstanding example currently in the industry when it comes to circular business model is a brand like Houdini. And my favorite brand is FC88 because they actually created a solution for the overproduction of products and created an upcycle process, which they do with 3 different work studios around Europe where they integrate immigrants, giving them job opportunities. So it's a social inclusion program, connected environmental program. So, long story short, where I would lead our discussion in the next minutes with my peers and in the panel group is the question, is this model really, really working? Or are we in a moment, and I'm really curious what especially the young audience here thinks, in a moment where greenwashing makes everybody so suspicious that there's no trust and a lot of confusion. So in that respect, I would like to close this keynote with a couple of thoughts and would like to invite a couple of minutes my dear panel colleagues. So thank you very much for your attention.